Howdy guys, Radio Magic here. I hope you are all having a fantastic morning, day, afternoon or evening, wherever you are and whatever you are up to. Today we are back with our mini-series on the channel with how viable is Control in the historic meta, and we're jumping all the way back to arguably one of my favourite three-colour combinations for Control, obviously just behind Jeskai, with Grixis Control. And I love this one. We've built it slightly more mid-range than normal, and I'll go over my rationale for that in a minute. But for those of you that have seen the list before, maybe you watched the last video. If you didn't see the last video, I'll put a little tag for that in the top right now, so you can click on that and go watch that. Or maybe you've checked the deck list in the description already, then head over to the description of this video and you can check out the timestamps for the video and go straight onto the game, since I'm sure you don't want to sit and watch this deck tech if you already know what everything does. But if you'd like to stay and hear why I've put the cards in and what I've done and my rationale for them, then please do, and I'll go over a very brief deck tech for this. And yeah, we'll move on. But essentially what I've tried to do with this Grixis list is utilize the mid-range value that Grixis has to offer, rather than pushing it to the control, the full control ends that Azorius will go to. With because Azorius is pretty happy with just stalling the game for as long as possible and taking over Teferi and Castle Ardenvale. They also have Castle Vantress, so they have so much value in their mana base that they can sort of take over with them. And it's really difficult for Grixis to compete. I feel like Grixis has a really good matchup against Azorius in that mirror. But when Grixis comes to just handling the general meta, I feel like it's not as good. So we're leaning on some of our mid-range bits to sort of take advantage of that. And yeah, we're also only splashing red. We're basically Dimir with a few red cards, and we'll go over the red in a minute. But like I said, let's go through the deck tech real quick and we'll move on. So we're running two Fatal Pushes. I wasn't sure whether to run Fatal Push because Erebos's Intervention is also a consideration for this list. But we're running Fatal Push because we're running so many creatures in the list, so we do actually have legitimate ways of triggering Revolt each turn. So Fatal Push instead of Erebos's Intervention. And the main reason we're running Erebos's Intervention, if we were running it, would be to either exile a little bit of the graveyard or gain some life. But between some of our new additions, we do have some extra life gain. And Erebos's Intervention, I think, was something that was in the last list. But if you haven't seen the last Grixis video, maybe go check out the deck list quickly and you can see the changes, because I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. We're then running 4 Four.Vs because, you know, this is one of the tools that Black has to offer. This is one of the reasons we're beating out Azorius sometimes. We're then running Tail's End in the main as our only counter spell, but this is just straight up being so impressive in the meta recently. I've seen this be played in main decks just across the board. You've got that 4-colour nonsense Uro list that Tail's End loves to hits that list pretty hard with the Hydroid, Krasis, Nissa, Uro if we want to counter that. But also they're playing it as well. So yeah, this is popping up quite a bit. We're then playing Bonecrusher Giant. If you watched Jeskai yesterday, then you'll know that Bonecrusher Giant is probably one of my favourite red cards. And I think this is one of the reasons to play red. Obviously falling short behind Chandra. But yeah, Bonecrusher Giant's really good because it fills up the 2-drop slot and the 3-drop slot. For people who haven't heard me say that a million times already, we can do this on turn 2 and on turn 3. It gives us something to do. Just a little bit of extra value. And hopefully in the control matchups, this is going to shoot Planeswalkers, finish off bits like that. In creature matchups, it can finish off creatures or just burn our opponent's face if necessary, since this deck does have a little bit of reach in it. So the shock to your face can be relevant. And the 3-mana Bonecrusher Giant as well is quite good because, yeah, it can just trade for a creature. So sometimes get a 2 for 1 your opponent. But yeah, Bonecrusher Giant really good. I think this is one of the most played cards on Arena at the moment. So yeah, there's a reason we're running this. We're then running 4 Champion of Wits. I think from the last list we were running 3 of these, but we've gone up to 4 just because they're such a good card. Disallow sees almost no play, so there's very few counter spells that can stop this, which means it's really good in control mirrors, and it's really good in creature matchups, since it can come down, fix your hand if you haven't found lands, or it can late game take over, and it can trade with a creature sometimes, or just chump block and save you a bit of life. We're then running Murderous Rider instead of Soul Shatter. So Soul Shatter was what we were running on the last video, but we've decided to just go straight up with a more consistent removal spell with Murderous Rider. We have to pay a little bit of life, which is relevant in a lot of matchups, but we get the flexibility of being able to target what we destroy, which isn't always relevant, which isn't always better, because some things have hexproof, but I don't think there's any hexproof threats running around at the moment. There's no Carnage Tyrants, and there's none of the new, I think it's 6/6 Baloth that has trample and hexproof, and you can kick it for 10 mana, or a total of 10 mana to give it 4 counters as well. I don't think that's seeing play. So we're not really worried about hexproof. So yeah, with just the flexibility of Murderous Rider being able to target, but also the 3-mana lifelink version of it is going to be something that we're going to lean a little bit on in this, since I think we're going to struggle more so in creature matchups, mid-range creature matchups, and mainly aggressive aggro lists as well. So the lifelink of Murderous Rider will be quite relevant. And it does have some synergy, both this and Bone Crusher Giant, with Champion of Wits, since we can, when this dies, it goes to the bottom of our library. But if we discard it to Champion of Wits, then it doesn't die, so it will go to the graveyard. And then we can bring it back with Scarab God as a 4/4 lifelinker in them matchups. So yeah, definitely relevant for them reasons. We're then running Eat to Extinction as a pretty efficient removal spell. It's either this or Vraska's Contempt, I feel. And we've gone Eat to Extinction because just to being able to select a card, basically. Vraska's Contempt, the life gain, is relevant, and maybe we want to replace this for Vraska's Contempt. But the 1 black pip, as well as the ability to be able to surveil on the top of our library, is quite relevant. With Scarab God, it can put something into the graveyard and just fix our draws. Board wipe of choice is Extinction Event. It's either this or Languish. Languish hits every single one of our creatures bar the Scarab God, so no reason to run Languish above Extinction Event. At least with Extinction Event, we have the flexibility of being able to select which of our creatures we'd like to kill, and it's always going to answer the best of our opponent's creatures, so yeah. We're then running Nicol Bolas the Ravager as a little bit more of our red splash. Nicol Bolas is a pretty potent threat in most matchups. 4 mana, 4/4 flyer, pretty good stats. And when it ETBs, opponent has to discard a card. So it's basically always going to 2-for-1 your opponent. And there's kind of a timestamp on this that your opponent must answer this before it gets to 7 mana. If your opponent allows this to flip, then they are in trouble, because Nicol Bolas the Arisen will just win the game as soon as it flips. Being able to destroy anything on the board, resurrect anything from any graveyard, basically, or just draw cards. And its ultimate is certainly you win the game. So, yeah, Nicol Bolas, like I said, we're leaning on this mid-range creature matchup of that Grixis has to offer. So Nicol Bolas the Ravager is really good synergy for that. And works well with Scarab God as well, since we can't get the flip version. If Scarab God exiles Nicol Bolas from our graveyard and resurrects it as a 4/4 zombie flyer, we can't transform it because it will fizzle because it's a token. But we could do this in our opponent's upkeep to make them discard. We could do it in their draw steps, so they draw their card return, and then we resurrect Nicol Bolas and make them discard their card. So instant speed discard is always good. And then we're leaning on the Scarab God as well, as one as Dimir / Grixis is really good mid-range creatures. Scarab God is not as potent as it used to be in Standard. Scarab God took over in Standard. But a 5-mana legendary god, 5/5, that at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses X life and you scry X, where X is the number of zombies you control. And you can pay Dimir and 2 to exile a creature from any graveyard and create a token that's a copy of that, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. And then the most important bit is when Scarab God dies, you get to return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. So it has a lot of utility. We can trade off with creatures in combat and then get it back. Or we can, if our opponent tries to remove it non-exile based, we keep getting it back, which is good as well. But if you play it in untap, you're going to take over pretty quickly if your opponent's in a creature matchup. Normally, the advice I was provided when I first started playing Scarab God in Standard, and I think it rings true today, is you don't want to play Scarab God in a matchup that you are not utilizing your own graveyard, because it's not actually trivial for your opponent to have creatures in Historic. It's quite often that your opponent doesn't have many creatures, or the creatures that they do have are just not good enough that the Scarab God bringing them back as 4/4s just doesn't do very much. So running Champion of Wits, Murderous Rider, Bone Crusher Giant, and Nicol Bolas, as well as some other creatures in our sideboard, allows the Scarab God to have some real utility that I think we can lean on pretty heavily. And I really like the Scarab God. I don't know if it's correct to run this, but this was originally Ashiok, so we changed this out as just a beta. I also think Mono Red is a tough matchup for us. And the Scarab God closes the game pretty quickly against Mono Red, so I like the Scarab God for that reason. Then Nicky B himself, the Dragon God. If you're playing Grixis, you need to find room for Nicol Bolas, the Dragon God. Nicol Bolas has the loyalty abilities of all other Planeswalkers on the battlefield. And you can +1 to draw a card, and each opponent exiles a card from their hand or a permanent they control. He can shoot any Planeswalker or creature, or you win the game if your opponent doesn't control a legendary creature or Planeswalker. So Nicol Bolas is our top end of the curve. Somewhat better than Teferi, since it can 2-3-for-1 your opponent. Since if it comes down, ticks up, your opponent answers it, they still have to exile something. So Nicol Bolas is really good value for what it's worth. It is a little bit heavily costed with triple black, so that's why our mana basis is skewed slightly towards black. We don't have any double blue apart from Champion of Wits, so most of our mana leans to the black department with like Murderous Rider and Turn 1 Thoughtseize and Fatal Push. Well then, because I always go on about 3-color decks not having a lot of utility of their mana basis, we have tried to fit in some utility, and we've done that in the form of Hagra Mauling, 4 mana to destroy target creature, or it can be a land, so pretty good for that rationale. And Castle Lochthwain, because our mana basis is skewed towards black, we have a lot of swamps, so Castle Lochthwain will hopefully enter untapped most of the time, and we're running a 1-of swamp because we're not getting too greedy, and we don't want to have a basic in our deck that can't help us cast Nicol Bolas, since if we find an island it might throw off that a bit. And if we get Field of Ruined or Assassin's Trophy, we'd like, or Settle the Wreckage for what it's worth, we want to be able to search out at least one land. We're running a little bit of a utility with Fetid Pools as well. No Scry lands. We could find room for Scry lands, but I think it's important that our lands enter untapped as much as possible. And I think Castle Lochthwain is enough, and Mauling. Moving on to the sideboard, we're running 1 of Cage. We've dropped this recently since we'd normally run 2 Cages, and Cage doesn't actually affect this deck at all. Champion of Wits exiles itself from the graveyard and returns, so Cage doesn't, it works with Cage, and Scarab God works with Cage as well, so all of that is all good. So yeah, not really affected by it at all, but we've dropped 1 because Goblins seems to not see as much play anymore, and I haven't seen any of the Emery combo list at large, so Cage doesn't feel as necessary, so yeah, we're only running the 1 of, and it's not in the main. So hopefully we can drop this from our sideboard in the near future altogether. But at the moment, it feels like we need to run some numbers of them. Then running 3 Negates as our counterspell of choice. This is mainly for the Control Mirror. Then Agonizing Remorse as some additional hand hate, since against like things like Azorius and maybe the 4-color nonsense list as well, since we can take Uros from their graveyard if our opponent doesn't have any good targets. When they're running Gifted Aetherborns, I'm not sure if this is correct or not, but we're running some number of these, actually quite a high number of these, to basically come in against mid-range creature matchups and aggro lists, since the Death Touch is always going to trade with something, and the Lifelink is going to offset hopefully some previous damage we've taken, or some just basically take over a little bit. And because it's double black and we're skewed towards black, we should be able to cast this quite consistently on turn 2 or 3. And it works really well with the Scarab God as well, since we can play Gifted Aetherborn, trade off, or maybe stall the board a little bit, and then get it back later on with Scarab God. And against mono red, when your opponent's running lightning strikes and stuff like that, we're kind of happy with our opponent to use 3 points of burn on an Aetherborn instead of on our face. So yeah. Elder Spell for just Planeswalkers, we might want to bring this in. It can also get the auto win with Nicol Bolas in some situations. We're not utilising that as much because we're not running Narsets and other Planeswalkers like Ashiok. 2 Sorcerer Spyglasses, shut down them Teferis, Narsets that our opponents are playing. Chandra's Awakened Inferno. This was actually suggested from the comment section of one of the previous videos. I think it was Grixis Control that was posted yesterday. That Chandra Awakened Inferno is a really good option for red control lists to play against Azorius for when your opponent just sits back with a load of their counter spells. Chandra Awakened Inferno cannot be countered, and then it comes down and starts clocking your opponent straight away. And it can answer Teferi. If you're on the play and your opponent goes turn 5 Teferi, you don't have an answer to that, or even if you do, you can let it resolve and then play Chandra and just minus X 5. Chandra will stay alive and exile their Teferi. So relevant for that reason. And also, I think the same person, maybe another person, suggested the Locust God. So we found room for a secondary legendary god in here. And I have no idea how this is going to be. I wanted to go up to a 4th Gifted Aetherborn, but let's find room for one of the legendary gods. I'm not putting the Scorpion God in because I feel the Scorpion God is just awful. But the Locust God is fantastic. And yeah, I don't know. I really like the Locust God. 6 mana 4/4 flyer that whenever you draw a card, you get a blue 1 red insect creature token with flying and haste. And you can pay Is it and 2 to draw and discard a card loot, and then it has the same protection that the Scarab God has. So I don't know how good the Locust God will be, but it's probably coming in the aggro matchups when we're boarding out some number of Nicol Bolas's, just as a bit more of a heavy hitter, so we can close the game a bit faster. And you'd be surprised, actually, it has a lot of synergy with the list. We are drawing quite a few cards between Nicol Bolas and, yeah, Champion of Wits as well. If we get to eternalize a Champion of Wits with the Locust God down, then that's pretty mental. So hopefully that all works out. But yeah, that was a pretty long deck tech. We went over every single card pretty much and explained why we are playing what we are playing. So I'm going to shut up now. And like I said, go down to the description if you'd like to find timestamps for the the decks for the games, or if you'd like to find a deck list down there as well. So feel free to go do that, and I'll catch you again at the end with a wrap up. So we are on the play with some Grixis Control in Historic, and yeah, this is okay. Turn 1 Four.Vs is always a good play. It's nice to be on the dealing end of the turn 1 Four.Vs rather than the receiving end. So yeah, let's Watery Grave it up. Taking a bit of damage at the offset. Ooh, opponent's on mono red, so oof. Oof. Let's take like an Annex. I guess opponent goes turn 3 Annex, and then we go Extinction Event. So just take the shock. I mean, we're shocking ourselves anyway, so yeah. Extinction Event's hopefully gonna just mop these up anyway. I mean, let's just wait one more turn. See if our opponent draws anything else that's relevant. Oh. Okay, so I don't even like Four.Vsing that much, but I guess we will. Yeah, we sort of dealt a lot of damage to ourselves. Fortunately, doesn't have haste. So name odd here. Take all these away, and then hopefully Scarab God can just close the game really quickly. And our opponent, I guess we can get an Annex back, a 4/4. Maybe just Nico Bolas is better though, because our opponent's gonna have to start exiling their lands. So yeah, Nico Bolas. So hopefully going to be a decisive victory. Exile one of their castles. Yeah, opponent needs to top deck something relevant quickly. Oh, putting us quite low there. So our hope now is to take away our opponent's lands. I guess we play Scarab God out. Opponent could have some 4 damage, direct burn, but unlikely. Could hope for them to brick for a few turns, because once they lose all their lands, yeah. Whew. I mean, they got us to 4. It was pretty close. So we actually come prepared for mono red, and we brought some gifted Aetherborns alongside. So what do we want to cut? Maybe just our Four.Vs, like you saw there, deals quite a bit of damage to us. So go like that, and yeah, there's nothing else we want to bring in. Maybe like Locust God as a way to close the game quickly as well. Puts out a lot of blockers. But yeah, not much else for us. Want quite a low curve. Bring in a Locust God as well. So what do we think of this hand? We have some cheap interaction with Fatal Push and Gifted Aetherborn. We need to draw 1 land, and then these champions will be good. So I guess we'll keep. We need to be careful of the interaction between Champion and Soulscar Mage, that when it ETBs, our opponent can. I don't think we're going to... I think we are actually going to shock to push this. This is indicated Fatal Push. It stops our opponent from triggering Spectacle, and we want to turn to Gifted Aetherborn. But we need to be careful of the interaction between these two, because our opponent can shock it in response, which puts -1/-1 counters on it, which actually reduces its power. Okay, so our opponent triggered Spectacle anyway, but they had to use a card to do so. Yeah, we're just going to Gifted Aetherborn. Some lifelink damage in, and yeah, if we find Scarab God, getting back Gifted Aetherborn is normally enough against mono red. Though it is painful, I think we're going to have to shock again. Discard a Nico Bolas. And Champion. And are we chump blocking? I think we're happy to attack to get the lifelink in. If our opponent wants to trade, that's fine. We can chump block with Champion, or we'll just take the 2. See what our opponent does. Yeah, this is what I was scared of as well. Our opponent answering the Yeah, we'll take 2. Opponent answering the Gifted Aether Bomb. Want to get some value out of it. So I don't mind just Murderous Riding here. Opponent gets a 1/1 out of the deal. Layer tap land, and then we can get the Lifelinker down next turn. So yeah, like Murderous Rider, a conscious decision when putting it in was that you get these 2 sides of it. Because originally the Murderous Rider was a Soul Shatter. But yeah, we have to take 2 damage, but we get this selection over what we kill, and you get a Lifelinker out of the deal. So, and yeah, this Lifelinker's. I think we're gonna make our opponent discard the last card first. Yeah, that was 4 points of burn. Pretty happy we got rid of that. And hopefully gonna. Yeah, let's just get down Murderous Rider, because I don't really want to shock in again. And then next turn we can Nicol Bolas, kill the Annex. And then once we start gaining some life with Murderous Rider, I think we'll be okay. Yeah, we're gonna trade here. Pretty happy to make this trade with the Champion of Wits. Our opponent can activate Castle. Yeah, opponent had a shock, so they have to use up their card. We still get to. Maybe they should have shocked the Champion of Wits instead, and then we wouldn't have traded. Don't know. So maybe we just want to play double Bonecrusher Giant out here. And then we just have lethal next turn. And yeah, this is the flexibility of Grixis, being able to take control in the late game against like other control lists with like Champion of Wits and oh, I mean it's not over yet. We're dropping to 3. But yeah, taking control against other control lists, but also having the flexibility of tons of creatures. So against these mid-range or aggro lists, we can make it quite hard for our opponent to punch a hole for us. So we are against Gigantha the Wellspring. And what do we think about this hand? Gigantha recently has meant the Emery combo list. Turn 1 Thoughtseize is still really good though, and Champion of Wits is going to draw us into some other bits. So we're probably going to keep this. How do we think we fare against this list? Because I haven't seen it pop up a lot recently. I mean, our opponent's not certainly on it, but this is where we've seen Gigantha. Overgrown Tomb. I mean, we'll have a look what our opponent's on. Okay, so they're on like the Jund Sacrifice list, and probably he's got to take the Trail of Crumbs as like some interaction. And our Extinction Event will hopefully be able to answer all of our opponent's other stuff. Claim the Firstborn's going to be good against us. So just get down our champion next turn, I guess. Opponent doesn't have red mana available to them, something I should probably have noted. Let's discard. Keep our double blue. There's our opponent's red mana. Just Nicol Bolas. I guess our opponent can claim the Firstborn, but like I said, they're a bit strapped on mana at the moment. Let's start by attacking. Yeah, Nicol Bolas being even is quite good for Extinction Event. Our opponent's got a surplus of cards, so they'll be able to have plenty to discard. Just going to go for the Woe Strider first. We kind of want to lose this Champion of Wits before we Extinction Event. I wonder whether we punish our opponent's greed and kill the Gilded Goose here. Probably not. Probably skip down. Opponent can claim the firstborn Nico Bolas and then hit our Nico Bolas. But we would have a champion to block Woe Strider. They'd have to use their only red source. And yeah, we'd have the champion to block the Woe Strider, so they'd need 2 removal spells. Yeah, let's go for it. Just make our opponent start exiling permanents. And then, yeah, we could probably go turn 6, this plus Extinction Event, and then turn 7, Champion of Wits if we lose this Champion of Wits at some point. They're getting rid of the Mayhem Devil. And yeah, may as well attack. So, quite likely our opponent's going to use the Claim the Firstborn to try and take down our Nico Bolas here. Okay, opponent's just gonna go like that. Oh, I guess yeah, leaving Nico Bolas tap down allowed that option. Oh, unfortunate. Yeah, I should have probably been careful with that. Our opponent's actually done us a really big favour by sacrificing this though. So probably just gonna Extinction Event here. Maybe we just want a Murderous Rider though. Could just Murderous Rider the Woe Strider. Play tap land and then we set up for next turn. Save the Extinction Event, I guess. Since our opponent would have to make a food and then also sacrifice the food for red mana. So just put our opponent under some pressure here. And then, yeah, we'll just discard this champion to the other champion so we can then eternalize the second one on turn 8. Opponent's going to scoop it up. I can understand that. They were missing red mana for quite a large proportion of time. So, against Jun's Sacrifice, I feel like Agonizing Remorse is going to be good for the Exile clause on it. Cage, I feel like it's going to be okay. What do we not want? Scarab God's going to be good. I think Tail's End's not great. I feel like our removal's okay. Maybe we can cut like a Murderous Rider. Do we want like Chandra again for her Exile clause? Probably not necessary. Like Sorcerer's Spyglass could be okay as well, but it's not as powerful as it normally would be. Locust Guard would be quite a potent threat, but our opponent can normally steal them and then sacrifice them. Yeah, I guess we get it back though. What would we cut for it? Maybe like Nico Bolas isn't as good in this matchup because it's really difficult to defend him. So trade it for a Locust God. Yeah, sweet. This hand looks really good. Get to turn 1 Thoughtseize, then remove something, and then play the Bone Crusher Giant into Extinction Event. I go on about it a lot, but I really like these adventure creatures just for the flexibility of being able to do something on turn 2 and turn 3. This curve, yeah. Quite a nice curve here. Oof. So, I think we've got to take this Trail of Crumbs, haven't we? Because with Gilded Goose, that's a pretty strong engine. So, and hopefully we're going to stop our opponent from Vraskering. If our opponent plays the, yeah, okay. Because they can sacrifice the Gilded Goose to fizzle the Bone Crusher Giant. Okay, they're not going to. Sweet. So we just get to kill Gilded Goose here. I would have thought they would have gone for the Vraska on turn 3. But maybe it's because they haven't got another land. So I think we're just going to get a champion down. Vraska can come down and shoot something. next turn, but we don't really have a way to stop that, so... And shooting our Champion of Wits isn't the worst thing in the world, since we can then get it back and it dodges Extinction Event. Probably, So opponent hasn't drawn land, but they can play Vraska next turn either way. So if Vraska comes down and shoots something, we'll be able to finish it off with Bone Crusher. So probably want to hold on to the Bone Crusher. We can see discarding Champion and land. And then we've got Bone Crusher, and then we can play both our Bone Crushers out. And we have the Extinction Event still. Do you want to hold on to Castle or Watery Grave? I guess we don't really need the blue. We have double blue. It's a little bit greedy discarding a land, but we have plenty to do. We should have maybe discarded Nicol Bolas and just kept land. But any other land gives us Nicol Bolas. Corvold, Fakehurst King. I've seen this pop up a little bit. It always destroys me when it comes down. So opponent going to go for Corvold here. Looks like they might be. Gigantha. Because Gigantha adds a ton of mana. I think we need to kill this Gigantha. Let's attack and just Extinction Event it. Oh, our opponent's... Yeah, we're going to lose our own Champion of Wits, but I think that's fine. I don't want our opponent... Because they're so stuck on mana, I don't want them to have all of that mana. I think we're playing out a Bone Crusher Giant, playing this as a land. Because we need to hit our land drops. So our opponent can play another Mayhem Devil. But our Bone Crusher Giant does a really good job of blocking this. Just trade it off, play Nicol Bolas, shoot the other one. Getting ever closer to being able to eternalize our Champion of Wits. And because our opponent's so stuck on lands, Nicol Bolas's +1 is even more punishing. So they exile one of these this turn. And then hope to draw a land. If they draw land here, they get to play this. And whenever you must sacrifice another permanent, so they'll sacrifice a land or the Mayhem Devil. I assume this is not a land or an untapped land. I guess they can Phyrexian Tower to add 2, so they can play it now. I'm gonna go to combat first. Yeah, we'll definitely block. Insolent fool. Okay, so opponent. Ooh. We get to untap, so let's tick up. So yeah, I think we are just eternalizing Champion here. This is 5 CMC. I think I made a mistake there. I think what we could do was Bone Crusher Giant the Woe Strider, play the Bone Crusher Giant out, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then if our opponent answers Bone Crusher Giant, they can sacrifice this to play the Corvold out, but then we can just shoot at Nicol Bolas. Oh no, we only have 1 red. Should have played Steam Vents. Okay, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, we 100% should have played Steam Vents, and then we could have played this out as well. Opponent's going to oh, it wouldn't matter. Our opponent's going to sacrifice it to Fizzle. So what we can do is when our opponent goes, they're incentivized to go to combat and to kill Nicol Bolas before they bring out Corval, because it doesn't have haste. And when they do so, before combat ends, but after Nicol Bolas is killed, in that stage after damage is dealt, we're gonna Fatal Push the Mayhem Devils so they can't use the mana. Full control, please, the whole time. Full control. It keeps trying to let go of full control. So yeah, we will Fatal Push this now. So they are unable to use the mana. Okay, sweet. Okay, now we're in a good position. How greedy do we get? I think the answer is fairy. And then we're going to get to draw 4 next turn. Oh my god, when we put Locust Guard in here, it was for a meme. And we still might be memeing, but yeah, I'll have 5 insects, including my draw for turn, please. Let's waste no time. 5 hasty insects, please. Discard. Discard? Yeah, we don't need lands at this point, do we? Yeah, oh, we should have discarded Champion of Wits, really, so we could do the same again next turn. Oh. I mean, let's... Oh, no, no! Oh, my God. I meant to attack all... Oh, my God. Oops. That was a big mistake. Massive misplay there. Hopefully it doesn't cost us. I got too excited. I meant to attack with all. So we can name Odd here. Opponent's gonna get to draw a few extra cards. Please don't punish us too bad. It looks like our opponent's gonna get punished a little bit, because with the cat's gonna get caught up in this. I don't think it's gonna matter too much, but none of our stuff gets caught by Odd. So 5, 6, 10, 14, and then Bone Crusher Giant's lethal. Or we could champion to draw 2 to make 2 more insects. So massive misplay, missing through our combat there and only dealing 1 damage. But my god, the Locust God, like, is it a real thing? I don't know. We boarded it in as a bit of jank, but yeah, it worked. Again, this is one of them hands where the curve is so filled up perfectly by the Bone Crusher Giant. Okay, turn 1, Fetid Pools. What does that mean? Does that mean a turn 2? Oh, no. I was going to say, is that a turn 2 Four.Vs in our future? So our opponents on like Dimir or Grixis. Looks like Dimir, not our brethren. We'll just, we'll shock here. Yeah, let's just champion. If our opponent counters this, I think we're fine. Sweet to see some non-Azorius control. Neutralizing the Champion of Wits. Maybe they're scared we're stuck on mana. Or trying to punish us a bit. It would have been nice, though, to discard the Extinction Event. I think we just play the Bone Crusher Giant. Play around Censor. Though I think our opponent would have censored last turn had they have had the option. Yeah, okay. So, see what our opponent does, but... Just play out a Bone Crusher Giant again. Want to try and run our opponent out of counter spells before we play the Nicol Bolas, and they seem quite trigger happy on these counter spells. Gonna play these out since we want to hit Champion of Wits. But we get to play around Sensor next time, Nika Bolas. But opponent's on Counterspell Tribal at the moment. Dimir mono counterspells. Do we want to maybe play this champion first? I mean, let's keep playing out our non-essential threats. Pause there, so our opponent has something. Let's discard. Discard? Yeah, we'll draw a land at some point. And then we just have back-to-back Nika Bolases that we can play. Don't know if our opponent's running Disallow. Okay. Do we just champion here? So does our opponent have a Disallow? We'll see. Have you got a Disallow? Or Tail's End? No. Ooh. Ooh, is our opponent trying to counter with the neutralize? No, this is an activated ability. This is not a cast. Yeah, discard, discard. Yeah, and we'll hold the champion back to chump block the Torrential Gear Hulk. Probably double block, actually. Oh, that feels really bad for our opponent. Since they could have saved that for next turn with our Nika Bolas. Really happy we elected to Champion of Wits there instead. Do we... We can champion plus Nika Bolas. Or are we just championing to extinction in the end step? It's just like, if our opponent, like, I don't want to keep... I want to try and run our opponent out of counter spells before we start throwing Nika Bolases into them. Discard, discard. And I guess we'll just play the Ravager now. Happy to run the Ravager into a counter spell, and our opponent has to counter the Ravager. Yeah, there we go. Opponent kept on top. Yeah, opponent must have countered that. Okay, that was our opponent's last card. They did keep on top. Okay, Narset. Let's see what they get.
So many mysteries to uncover, but thoughtfulness before action.
Commit to memory. Oh, commit's gonna be I think we're gonna upkeep, try and exile this Torrential Gear Hulk. And our opponent's probably gonna commit to the extinction. And then we need to draw a land. A land or an answer to this Torrential Gear Hulk. Otherwise, if our opponent gets to commit memory with Narset out, we are not feeling too good. So, something please. Tail's End. Tail's End is an answer. Tail's End is not an answer, actually. Oof. So, we lose everything. We can't even really attack here, because if we attack, we lose our Champion of Wits as well. It goes to the graveyard. Our opponent got really fortunate with the sequence of draws there. Yeah, I think that's game. I think we're going to be able to... Opponent's even cheekily giving us the good game. Yeah, and they get to flip Search as Canter just before commit memory goes off. Yeah, unfortunately we can't stop this. Opponent's gonna Bajuka Bog us as well just before that. I don't know if that's a waste, since if they're gonna memory here, then they're gonna shuffle all this away. Okay, opponent's not gonna memory. Think that feels like a mistake while you've got the opportunity? Yeah. So yeah, we get to draw one. And can't draw a castle. I mean, Nico Bolas is a good one. So, I guess we're playing Nico Bolas out.
All of the multiverse will bend to my will.
Gotta kind of answer the Torrential Gear Hulk here. Otherwise, we attack through, can take out Narset and draw a card, but then our opponent can just answer the Nico Bolas on the way back.
Science has consequence.
So, yeah, I don't love our position.
Kinda harder.
I guess we keep a card in hand for info purposes. Yeah, our position is not great from here. Commit Memory, really strong. I guess against any list, that's a really powerful combo. We needed to hit Untap Land that one turn sooner. Let's swing him. I guess we're just playing out our cards at this point. Into like, our opponent had like a wall of counter magic before. Let's see what they've got this time. Okay. Let's play this tapped. Because we can draw and then draw again on our next turn. Yeah, I mean, our one saving grace is that this Champion of Wits might go off. But not now. Our opponent's going to into Vraska's Contempt, this Champion of Wits. Yep. And we have one champion left in the list. We still have like Scarab Guard and that we can get back. Can grab. Opponent has 4 cards left in hand. They do have an active Search for Scanter, which is an issue. So we're gonna have to see what our opponent's got. It looks like they've only got 3 cards left in hand. They've got an Ascanter, so they're definitely ahead still, but we're not just out of it. Our opponent also needs to answer Nico Bolas now. And that's a pretty good answer to it. Our opponent could even wait until we activate. No. So they could wait until we activate Nico Bolas and then exile it. Since it can only be done at sorcery speed. Opponent's not interested in trading damage at the moment. So I guess we're just passing. Or Eat to Extinction this now and start getting in damage. I guess like we have to... Yeah, let's just wait. Like, go now. Feels bad if our opponent's like a Narset or something. Quench. Why would I tap my mana so awkwardly? That seems really strange, since we can... I think we keep this. It's like a extra answer to whatever opponent's got, but it's also a threat that can attack down their planeswalkers. And we don't know how many Torrential Gearhulks our opponent's running. Sort of indicates that that's the only counter spell that our opponent has, since I think they would have countered this properly if they did, rather than just casting a Quench. So let's draw. Fortunately, we do have the one basic in the list. I think we still have it in there. Yep. Just because we're in 3 colours, we're not greedy enough not to run any basics. Oh! Just top deck the other one naturally, sure. I think let's activate now. Tail's End isn't awful. Yeah, Azcanto is bad though. I mean, like, we could try and stop this, but I think we'll save the Tail's End. Yeah, Tail's End's not great at stopping Sinister Sabotage and Neutralize. Opponent's got a good game plan though, just like infinite counters and removal, and then a Torrential into memory. So opponent likely just counters this. Got to get these counter spells out somehow. Yep. That was a snap keep on top. But opponent's shuffling now anyway, so guess it's fine. So, not greedy enough. Too greedy to have a second basic in our list. Yep. Let's push this, see if our opponent wants to counter. Yeah. Grixis not known for its ability to be able to answer Shark Typhoons. See if our opponent goes for the double or triple block here. Only goes for the double, sure. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to beat this, since our opponent gets to just act well. Yeah, I mean, they get 2 6/6 sharks. Guess that's good enough. We get a ton of cards though. I don't know if that was right or not. I mean, I think it's fine with 2 Shark Typhoons and a Search for Azcanta. Yeah, I don't think we can beat this. Yeah, we're gonna... yeah, we're gonna scoop it up. Shark Typhoons are really difficult to beat, especially from the position we're in. So we on to the next game. I feel like we can beat that. We just got screwed to the Narset. Chandra's going to be good as an uncountable threat. Let's cut the pushes. Let's cut the extinction events. And let's cut Scarab God. Scarab God feels okay because they've got Torrential Gear Hulks, but outside of that, it's not the best. And we'll cut a Bone Crusher Giant. But yeah, I pretty much like the rest of it. Another consideration could be for Narset, we could bring in this sort of Spyglass or Elder Spell. I think it's fine. So, on the play, what do we think about this hand? I think the fact we have Bone Crusher Giant makes it playable. Probably just going to shock our opponent in the end step, see what they've got. Opponent might quench this since they're running quenches. Strange they didn't quench it before. Oh, I guess they wanted to make us waste our turn. So, like, here comes the Narset. No, just search for Scanter. Oh, opponent's missing land drops. Let's discard. We want to keep both of our lands. Let's discard, I guess, Bone Crusher Giant. And Champion of Wits? Bone Crusher Giant's some good pressure, but I guess Chandra's going to have to be enough. I don't think we saw any hand hate from our opponent game 1. They might have it, just, or opponents, yeah, a little bit stuck on mana. It looks like they kept a 2-lander, though, so, yeah. I mean, I think the play is just to hold up Extinction Event and negate. We might even deal 5 to ourselves to draw a card with this castle. Just because we want to hit our land for Chandra. I think we are going to do that. It's a steep price to pay, but we do not want to miss our land drop here. Sweet. We would not have done that had we not have activated it. So yeah, steep price of 5 life, but I think with our opponent missing a few land drops. Oh, opponent has one of like the only answers to it. We'll get back to it in time. If we draw land, we can just start going into champion as well. Yeah, and with our opponent missing land drops, I think we want to be proactive here. Draw back into the Chandra. Unless our opponent does have a disallow, they just didn't find it in the first game. How many free mana counter spells can you run though? Let's discard. Discard? We'll keep 1 land. Okay, so opponent's definitely going to have a land drop now. I think our opponent sort of pushed to do something here. Ah, push. Nice. So we can Chandra plus negate. Is that right? 2, 4, 6, 8, yep. So if our opponent's answer to Chandra is to negate it, then we can, to commit it, then we can negate it. If not, we get to hold up negate or Tails End next for next turn. But in Dimir, not known for its life gain. Yeah, we'll allow our opponent to have it. These Chandra emblems are going to start to clock our opponent quite quickly. Okay, so opponent does nothing. Guess we'll just tick up. We're in a position now where we just don't have to do anything, though. I think we shall. We shall play Nico Bolas, the Ravager. Cannot stop that. Just we can counter whatever our opponent plays out of the graveyard. I guess it's like memory here. Yeah. So our opponent goes to cast it, puts it on the stack. I mean, it like really doesn't matter, does it? But I think this is fine though. Graveyard that. Because then our opponent's falling to 5 here, 3 in their upkeep, and then they're dead to Chandra next turn. Tails End doesn't actually feel that great here. Opponent has so many counter spells. But yeah, we haven't seen any Four.Vs. Yeah, it makes me think. I really don't like Tails End. I think Tails End's not great here. I don't think it's insane to cut him here. And we could bring in creature cards in graveyards. Creature cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield. Players can't cast spells from graveyards. So it shuts down Torrential Gearhulk. I think we'll bring in that. And I guess the extra Bone Crusher Giant. All of our opponents' removals are really expensive, or it's like Fatal Push and they have to trigger Revolt. So I kind of like Bone Crusher Giant. I prefer it above the Scarab God just because it's so cheap. But yeah, we'll run it like that. I think I like this hand. Champion's going to be able to draw us into something. And back-to-back Ravagers is going to force our opponent to have some sort of counter spells. They've had a crap ton of them so far, though. Opponent's mulligan to 5, I think. Oof. 5 with Four.Vs. Okay, opponent's left with a free land hand. Can't be feeling too great. I mean, Narset's pretty good.
I have practiced against many. Meditate and prepare.
I think we're still going to play Champion out to get something under here. We just won't draw with it. Oh, it doesn't even give us the option. So players can't mess up. Because it is a May trigger. But obviously people can't mess up with accidentally not doing it. Okay, so opponent's like getting out of their mulligan a little bit.
You are a mighty warrior. I I concede.
Do we... What are we doing here? We're just running a Nicol Bolas into this, and then next turn we get 2 Four.Vs plus Nicol Bolas. Okay, so we will not be Four.Vsing plus Nicol Bolas next turn. Unless our opponent decides to counter the Four.Vs. Sweet, yep. I guess let's take Shark Typhoon since we're coming in under this now. Yeah. And then with 2 turns off, flipping Nicol Bolas. Okay, opponent's just gonna scoop it up. So plan was there, land and to cycle Fetid Pools, attack and go from there. But yeah, mono Dimir counterspells managed to get there with our hand hate. We didn't see any Four.Vs. I feel like our opponent, I don't know why they're not playing them, but probably should have seen them. So, more Grixis Control in Historic, and this hand is interaction heavy. So, probably going to keep this. This is one of them hands that's like awful in some matchups, great in others. Probably hold on to his Fetid Pools in case we need to cycle it. Opponent's just taking a minute to decide what they'd like to do. Got this sweet little grass man. He has some little roar. He's bewildered by who's poking him. Oh no, he's raising his fist to the sky. Hilarious. Yeah, we're not going to shock in case we're against mono red. Or some form of aggro list. Okay, turn 1 forest. Sweet. Sort of inclined to play Fetid Pools out now, since we definitely want to hit our land drops for Nicol Bolas. And we'd like to go Murderous Rider into Nicol Bolas if we need to. So our opponent's on though. It's like Gruul or Gruul. Sweet, nice mid-range. Oh, nice mid-range list to play against. It's so refreshing to play against a mid-range list. It's nice, especially when we have a hand with so much interaction in it. Do we just play? Play Champion of Wits. It trades with the Burning Tree. Equally, we could just like Murderous Rider this. We just like Murderous Rider. If our opponent gives us a better target, then we'll Murderous Rider that. But could see a Gruul Spellbreaker coming down now. Opponent might just be on like Gruul aggro, missing their turn 1 Pelt Collector. It's Kazuna Mammoth. Kazandu Mammoth. I don't think it's worth taking the damage since we have more removal spells. Typically you want to wait till the end step, but we shall not wait. Oh, that's a good one. This is going to stop our Champion of Wits. And did us quite a bit of damage as the game goes on, so we want to close the game like as quickly as possible. But unlike most other control lists we're playing, this one actually has some form of life gain. It's going to make the Scarab God quite a bit worse. Okay. Opponent's going to make it a 3-3. I think we're just Murderous Ridering that and attacking. We don't really want to see, like, I guess, Ember Cleave. We have tons of removal, but... Okay, so when our opponent goes to combat... Oh no, they've got a land. We don't have any 1-drops. Eat to Extinction. Oof. So I'll take the least amount of damage. Just want to play out a Murderous Rider here. Opponent can attack and then eat to Extinction. Murderous Ridering this and falling to 6 and then falling to 4 with Clothos doesn't feel too good. Maybe shouldn't have attacked there. Gotta hope our opponent doesn't have land into Embercleave. Since land into Embercleave would be really devastating. It looks like Gifted Aetherborn's going to be good in this matchup. Gruul Spellbreaker. Okay, so how do we want to do this? Probably just got a name Odd with Extinction Event. Because our opponent could have attacked then and then just Extinction Event the or Eat to Extinction the Murderous Rider before blocks. They would have got an extra card off the Robber of the Rich and dealt us 2 damage. But they chose not to, which makes me think that they have a Embercleave in hand. But if we wait till our opponent's turn, the Gruul Spellbreaker will have Hexproof. I guess... Yeah, I guess we can Murderous Rider the Gruul Spellbreaker and then Bone Crusher Giant the Robber. We're falling like really low. We'll attack with both because we need to gain the life. And then yeah, we will just Bone Crusher Giant this Robber. But our opponents, we're falling really low now. Falling to 4. Very close to dying. Okay, gonna fall to 1 here. Does not feel good. So let's just attack with Murderous Rider. And then let's play another Murderous Rider. Fall into 1, and we'll see what our opponent's got. 1 life. Yeah, I said this earlier. Clothos really good. So got a chump block here. Does this have trample? This does have trample. We gain a little bit of life. Okay, how do we want to do this? Can Extinction Event. I guess we can just attack with the Murderous Rider. Play Bone Crusher Giant, play Murderous Rider. And we fall back to 3 again. Like, our opponent's had a card in hand for ages. It makes me think it's Embercleave. Yeah, opponent shot this in. This is an Embercleave if you've seen one. So yeah, we need to block with everything here. God, I hate Embercleave. So opponent puts it on, it becomes a 4/4. They get to first strike this down, and then we still trade. This is an Embercleave if I've ever seen one, though. Fortunately, our opponent gets to kill just 1 thing still, though. 2 things. And then I guess we're dead to like a goblin. Yep, you know it. Opponent had it in hand for ages. Fortunately, that goes on the bottom as well, for what it's worth. Okay, so if our opponent has a Zertar Goblin off the top, we're not just dead. We'll fall to 1. I guess we can just attack with 1. Just attack the Murderous Rider here. And then we're not dead to a Zertar Goblin. Or a Hasty Threat. And then we'll just play double Champion of Wits here. Just try and put enough power in play that we'll definitely have lethal on the next turn. Discard, discard, useless, useless. And then play this out. Plenty of fuel. I guess discard, discard. And then eat to extinction if our opponent decides to play a blocker, I guess. So falling to 3, but our opponent, like, I don't know, could they have a burn spell? Definitely possible, they could top deck a burn spell here. But we put enough power in play that we should have it. Ho ho ho! So yeah, opponent got caught a little bit on lands with the Embercleave, but we got there in the end. So I assume Gifted Aetherborn's going to be good here. And Sorcerer's Spyglass shuts down Embercleave once they cast it and we answer that creature, but I don't know, it feels a little bit narrow. What do we want to cut? I feel like Scarab God's excellent. It feels a little bit bad with Klothos, but we can, in response, take the card away from them when they target it. What do you want to take out? Maybe Champion of Wits. Guess we just keep in the 1, or we could cut it for the Locust God. This hand is fairly, very slow. Probably going to have to mulligan this away. This hand's not much better. I guess we'll keep it. Tail's End's probably something we should have boarded out, actually. Put Tail's End at the bottom. Yeah, Tail's End's something we should have boarded out. And they've got the turn 1 Elves. So either way, they get to Burning Tree into Mammoth. So I guess we just leave them with double Burning Tree. Slightly more power, but well, I guess no, it's actually just better to take the Mammoth, isn't it? Opponent's got quite the hand, though. Guess we're just going to cycle this Fetid Pools. Are we going to cycle it? Yeah, I guess in the hope of, like, finding something. We need, like, an extinction event, or... Wow, okay. So yeah, had we have kept the Tail's End up... Yeah, I didn't think in 2 draws they'd have found an Embercleave, but clearly I was mistaken. So yeah, we could have stopped that with the Tail's End. But I just wanted to dig for something. And yeah, we're going to scoop it up there. I don't even think if we Tail's End that Embercleave, it works out too well for us. We don't actually in the 75 have an answer to Embercleave. Tail's End is something I think that, I guess it answers Embercleave, but outside of that, it's not great. We've just got to stop our opponent's creatures from equipping. Or take it with Four.Vs. I think I'd rather have Champion. Right, so we get to go first, and I like this hand. Very, very disruptive, and the Gifted Aetherborn can hopefully hold the line. We're going to take a bit of damage, though, off the bat. Just take the Llanowar Elves here. So our opponent goes double Burning Tree, Emissary next turn. Yeah, I don't know if it's worth shocking there to play the Gifted Aetherborn. Opponent could stomp our face here. Going to. So I don't think we want to shock again. We'll just play this tapped. Pass. We've got some blockers. Can stop a lot of what our opponent's doing, but doesn't stop an Ember Cleave. Fortunately, that does. It won't stop it on the Gruul Spellbreaker, unfortunately. I guess we can Four.Vs our opponent. Never believe your opponent doesn't have it. Okay, Gruul Spellbreaker's good. Do we shock here so we can stomp plus Fatal Push? No. I don't want to keep dealing that much damage to us. And yeah, we can't Fatal Push in our opponent's turn really on the Gruul Spellbreaker because it has Hexproof. Just gonna stomp that so we can get down the Bone Crusher Giant. And yeah, a bit of a stalemate here, but if our opponent has an Ember Cleave, we're in trouble since putting on the Gruul Spellbreaker is really good. Yeah, let's allow that. This is dies if that creature's power is greater. Just trade one of our Gifted Aetherborns off here. Yeah. Get to gain some life as well. Can probably kill the Pelt Collector here as well, since we'll have to trade our Bone Crusher Giant for it, and we're saving our Bone Crusher Giant for this Gruul Spellbreaker. Probably gonna cycle that, and we'll do it now since we do have some free drops we can draw. That is not a free drop. Unfortunately, we're like at the mercy of our opponent finding a Ember Cleave. It's that sort of game. Though Nicol Bolas tick up, we will close that game quite quickly for our opponent. Land. Okay, so I reckon our opponent's got one draw, and even we might even be able to block. Okay. Okay, I feel much better about the situation now. I wonder if we just shoot this Gruul Spellbreaker. I guess ticking up's okay still. It's land.
Let your weak minds cry.
So just pass turn, I guess. Is there any way to stop? I guess if our opponent has a Ember Cleave, then we can still block the Gruul Spellbreaker. We just take it. Okay, so we're definitely going to do something now and probably do the more expensive play. Yeah, I think just more removal here is great. So now, because our opponent doesn't have any cards, yeah, okay, I think this is fine now. I think we're coming out the other side. So you can kill one of Gruul Spellbreakers. And then that should be enough now. Yeah, we'll hold this for an answer, but we can push the Burning Tree Emissary. But our opponent doesn't have enough to Ember Cleave now, so I think their out was to Ember Cleave, and they just couldn't find it. We found a Nico Bolas before that, but yeah, Gifted Aethermorns did work there. Like, when I was building the list, I wasn't sure if putting them in the sideboard was going to be correct, but in these mid-range creature matchups, the Death Touch of them is definitely relevant, and the Lifelink can buy you a bit of time. Okay, we are on the play with some more Grixis Control in Historic, and sweet opening hand. Probably just going to play out this Fetid Pools. Play on turn 1. And we need to hit enough lands for Nico Bolas. And if we flood, so be it, I guess. But yeah, let's go. Okay, Mountain turn 1. What does that mean? Goblins, mono red. Opponent's got like the fairy sleeves. Mono red, probably shock. I think this hand's okay against mono red. On the draw, I don't think this hand's good enough against them. Saving, in hindsight's 2020, but saving that Fetid Pools would have been better. Would have had something to do this turn. Yeah, pretty scripted. We're just going to eat to extinction what our opponent does. We'd like to save it for Hazarat, but I don't think we're going to be able to. Thermal Alchemist. Okay, opponent's missing land drops. Ooh. Scarab God's one of our better cards in this matchup since it can close the game quite quickly. We're going to eat to extinction now before our opponent gets a chance to untap. We'll graveyard extra lands. Black blue is our main colour, so we don't need to need more red at the moment. Is this a spectacle? Yeah, light up the stage. And our opponent's missing lands. I've got the next 2 land drops sorted. I think we're gonna start with a Scarab God, since it hits much harder. I guess Nico Bolas like eats their cards, but yeah, hitting for 5 each turn is pretty good. Just want to close the game as quickly as we can against mono red. Opponent's got a load of cards going. Ramanap Ruins as well. Let's have a look at what opponent's got. I guess we just take the Lightning Strike. I guess destroy. Oh, no, our opponent can do both things anyway. We just tick up and make our opponent exile something. Get rid of that robber. So we'll hold back for a turn.
No weakness I cannot exploit.
If they'd like to trigger Spectacle, then they will need to throw this Scorch Spitter away. And yeah, sweet. So we're seeing actually quite a bit of mono red today, and Gifted Aetherborn feels really good. And I'm going to bring in the Locust Guard as just a bigger, heavy hitter. What do we not want? I think Four.Vs is relatively weak. Tail's End is awful. There's a few targets for Tail's End, but not many. Like Trim and Nico Bolas. I think we'd rather the hitters in this matchup. And cut Four.Vs because we don't want to be dealing that much damage to ourselves. This is a matchup where this was Shatter, Soul Shatter before. And I think maybe, I don't know which one's better. We'll evaluate as we go on, but the lifelink of Murderous Rider might be better than the Soul Shatter, but we do have to pay the life with Swift End. But no, we'll see. Yeah, we're going to keep this. Turn 2, Gifted Aetherborn looks good. We will have to shock ourselves to do so, but be okay. This is a matchup, I think, very much where it matters who goes on the draw and play. Our opponent could very easily answer the Gifted Aetherborn to a Lightning Strike or something, but Gotta make our opponent do it, I guess. Since at least it's 3 points of burn that isn't coming at the Gifted Etherborn, and it wastes some of our opponent's mana. Ooh. Yeah, I'm happy for a 2-for-1. Definitely happy there. And we're hoping our opponent doesn't have a Chain Whirler. And we can find an untapped land off of this Champion of Wits that doesn't shock us. Yeah, I'm kind of happy to see all this burn going at going here. We'll discard a Nico Bolas and a land, I guess. Watery Grave. And I guess the plan next turn is to just shock the Pyromancer with the Stomp and play a tap land. Ooh! I haven't seen this sideboard tech in a while. So maybe we just want to play out the Bone Crusher Giant. Is it worth the... It holds them both back, but if this is a removal spell, that works out a lot worse. So I guess we'll just hold the thing and we'll Stomp. And if we wanted to play around like Wizard's Lightning, we could have done it then. I guess this is a much better target. Okay, so it was not a removal spell. Shock one of these. Taking 6 though. So our opponent like 2-for-1 themselves to death, but like sort of paid off in the end. Since I guess we're just dead here. Yeah, sweet, just dead. I guess the Goblin was pretty painful. But yeah, let's go again. Game 3. Yeah, nothing really to change. Let's just go again. So on the play this time, and this hand's a little bit slow. We have tons of card draw. We can play our Gifted Etherborn. I think we can't really afford to mulligan this. We have removal. We'll see. I think, yeah, again, this is a matchup. I think that who goes on the play and draw matters so much. Okay, so unfortunately not going to be playing Gifted Etherborn on turn 2, which is where we want to play it. So our opponent does. Another Scorch Spitter. So unfortunately we're not going to be hitting our land drops. We do have a bit to do in the meantime. We've got like 2 more turns scripted, but we would love to hit a land drop soon. Especially if our opponent has tons of removal for these Etherborns. Yeah, no lands. Yeah, and even punished even more with the Goblin. Okay, we found land. Unfortunately, it's not red land though. Let's sit back. Gonna have to sit back. You gotta believe that in 3 cards our opponent has a 3 damage burn spell. Maybe not. Unfortunately, we're not finding lands though. Our opponent doesn't have one at the moment. Otherwise, they would have done something. Okay, found one now. So yeah, I think that's over now. Yeah, unfortunate. We just needed 1 land. It was one of their hands where, like, I don't think we could afford it to. Maybe we should have mulliganed. Didn't want to stumble, but 1 land into Champion of Wits would have been fine. So, Grixis Control against Gigantha the Wellspring. What do we think about this hand? I mean, this is okay. Has Four.Vs, has mana. Doesn't have red mana, but we have time to draw it. And yeah, we've got some bits. We'll keep it. So, Gigantha, what do we think against this? Could be a few different things. The Emery combo list comes to mind, but looks like probably the Jund sacrifice list. But we'll confer. Yeah, it looks like it is. take this Dreadhorde Butcher, since it's going to grow exponentially as the game goes on. If we had like a Fatal Push, could maybe take something else, but... Okay, don't worry, opponent top deck the second one, nice. Yeah, I think we can't beat that. I think this is just going to accrue too much damage now. I mean, we have like so many removal spells early. There's one of them. Little bit too late though, one turn too late. So we're going to take 3 here, and then we can eat to extinction this, I guess. Oh, opponent even has the Collected Company. Sweet. Yeah, that's going to be far too much. We'll play it out, because why not? But I feel that's going to be nail in the coffin. Especially they drew the Phyrexian Tower as well, so we can't even... Yeah, 4, but yeah, I was just going to scoop out there. Phyrexian Tower is lethal, since we should have beat to extinction our turn, but just habit of waiting. Okay, Jund Sacrifice. I guess we want our Agonizing Remorses, since they exile things. Graph Digger's Cage, since they'll have the cat combo. Locust Guard is like a better heavy hitter, I guess. Gifted Aetherborns. I guess these hold back what our opponent's trying to do. They trade. I guess Tail's End is not something we want to play with in this matchup. And Scarab God feels really good. Maybe we don't want Nico Bolas. But Nico Bolas feels okay. Like, maybe we don't want... I guess, like, trim some Thoughtseizes since we're bringing in some Agonizing Remorses. And to cut 2 cards. Maybe eat to extinction. So our opponent can 4 mana, and our opponent can normally sacrifice their permanents in response. Yeah, we'll cut 2 eat to extinctions. So going first, and this hand's deceptive, but we do have 3 lands in it, which can get us to Champion of Wits. But they all enter tapped, and yeah. So we're looking at like a turn 4 Champion of Wits if we don't draw an untapped land. It's probably too slow. This is even worse though. Guess we can keep this. Put Bone Crusher Giant on the bottom since we can't play it. And Extinction. Oh, I guess Nico Bolas. Feels bad though. But oh well. Sometimes the magic gods are not kind. We definitely have the potential to draw out of a Molt 5 on the play. Though I'm not particularly hopeful. This is going to require, like, I guess, like, Champion of Wits into other bits. I mean, this is still only a 2-lander. We should have kept our first opening hand. I guess we don't really want to block that, so we'll just attack him. Hopefully it gets caught up in our extinction event, but I guess Gifted Aetherborn will also. Okay, at least we're drawing stuff to do on the upside. They discarded Collected Company. I guess Graph Digger's Cage just shuts that down. Probably should have attacked with Gifted Aetherborn first if that was our plan. Could easily see a claim the firstborn. No, I don't think we block here. Since we can odd Extinction Event. And our opponent has to decide now. I assume they sack their Mayhem Devil. But then if they sack the Mayhem Devil, well, we're not choosing even, are we? There's no way we're choosing even when both of our creatures are. So you definitely sack the Mayhem Devil here, and the Goat token if you want a bit of extra value. Oh, is the opponent going to sack their whole board? To take out the Gifted Aetherborn? Yeah, they are. So, still no mod. Get rid of this Woe Strider, even though it can't come back because of Cage. Let's see though. Don't really want to block that. If we shoot it with Nico Bolas, then our opponent can use the damage to finish off Nico Bolas. And then I guess we attack for 4, put him to... Equally, we could tick up Nico Bolas and then sit back with the other double Nico Bolas protecting each other. If we sit back, our opponent could easily play something and then sack with Priest. But I guess that doesn't answer the Dragon God. I think we'll tick up. It depends. If our opponent doesn't have a removal spell and these two aren't creatures... That's asking a tall order though, isn't it? Gotta hope our opponent can't answer the Dragon God here. Equally though, we could, if we draw a land next turn, we're in a position that we can flip the Ravager. I guess we waited on a land, didn't we, last turn, so we need to wait an additional turn. Okay, so our opponent has 2 valuable cards in hand. This is, yeah, so we can't attack. This could deal damage to Nico Bolas, and then they could sack it and use the final damage to ping it. Hoping our opponent doesn't have a Claim the Firstborn. Still hoping. If our opponent has a Claim the Firstborn here, then it's cheeky because they exiled a land knowing that, hoping that they would top deck another one. Yeah, so we lose our Nico Bolas. So, do we draw first? I guess we are drawing this. Agonizing Remorse isn't great. Probably just discard. Discard. No reason to Agonizing Remorse, really. Our opponent can finish off Nico Bolas here. They can sack both things to ping him down. Just gonna swing both at us, and then I guess do the same thing anyway. Wait, are we just dead? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we're just dead to this. Yeah. Sweet. Our opponent just swings all us. Yeah, nice. Okay, I feel like we are actually relatively close, considering that we had to mulligan so heavily. Since, with a land, we were drawing, we were eternalizing Champion of Wits. Howdy guys, cheers for making it to the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching some Grixis Control. So how did Nicol Bolas and the Scarab God perform overall? We faced against 5 different lists, 1 control list, 2 Jund sacrifice lists with Gigantha as their companion, and 2 mono red lists. So let's start with mono red. I feel like the list did really well against Mono Red. I feel like it did a little bit better than Control does against Mono Red as well. Between the heavy beaters of the Scarab God and Nicol Bolas and the adventure half of Bone Crusher Giant, I feel like we can really put up a wall that makes it difficult for our opponent to attack through that. And the Locust Guard at the sideboard, while maybe a little bit jank, it is another heavy hitter that can come in and just put up a little bit of a wall around your opponent. But then you also have the disruption between Fatal Push, Murderous Rider, and Eat to Extinction to slow them down at the same time. And Champion of Wits gives you some sort of late game inevitability. And the Scarab God with the Gifted Aetherborns in the board, I feel like you saw it in their matchups. Gifted Aetherborn really does stall the game out, and we didn't end up getting any back with the Scarab God, but you can definitely see how that would work in combination with getting a 4/4 lifelinker just going to stall out. Your opponent's definitely going to have to 2-for-1 themselves to be able to take down a Gifted Aetherborn, and then you're pretty much, you should be in a good position. We did get a little bit lucky on some of our games, I think, with our opponent like not having an Embercleave. But then again, Embercleave is a broken card anyway, so sometimes your opponent's not going to have it. Most of the time they have it, but sometimes they won't. So Jund Sacrifice, how did we do against that? I think Jund Sacrifice was fine. We lost, I think we lost one of our games, won one of our games. It worked out okay. I feel like by taking out one of our cages in the board, it made us a little bit more susceptible to that. So maybe it's a matter of taking out the Locust Guard and putting in the cage, or maybe we need to make some sort of rearrangement with our sideboard to make sure we do have the sufficient number of cages in the board to tackle them lists like Goblins and Jund Sacrifice and other bits. But overall, I feel like it's not an unwinnable matchup since we have so much disruption to slow them down. And like I said, with Champion of Wits as well, it just feels really good to be able to have some late game inevitability. Against the Embercleave, Gruul, Aggro list, I feel like we did okay. I feel like we have so much disruption and so many creatures. Again, I feel like I'm keep saying this, but like it's the difference I think where Grixis lies to Azorius and Jeskai. It has such good creatures that it can run that you can really put up a wall around yourself. Not in the form of Teferis and counter spells, but in the form of big beefy creatures that also have some really good value attached to them. All of our creatures are good by themselves, quote unquote good by themselves obviously, but also have some added value attached to them that really makes them playable, all the way from like I said, from Bone Crusher Giant, Champion of Wits, Murderous Rider, getting it back as a lifelinker, or just removing a creature. They're all really, really good. So being able to answer our opponent's threats is pretty key in that matchup. And like I said, we do have some beefy bodies that can block our opponent's threats. The biggest problem in that matchup was Gruul Spellbreaker, I found, because it has Hexproof during our opponent's turn. We can't interact. We have so many removal spells, and our Fatal Pushes are really good. That I feel like with the Gruul Spellbreaker, it's really difficult to interact with that. So, I don't know, that's just a combination of our opponent having a Hexproof threat, along with the Embercleave, because we can't interact with that. That's where in the previous list Soul Shatter would have been better than Murderous Rider, because that would have been an answer to that Gruul Spellbreaker. Obviously a little bit situational, but it is a okay answer to that. So that's where I think Murderous Rider fared in that matchup. And lastly, the Control matchup, the Dimir matchup that we played against. I feel like Grixis is just really good. I mean, they had a consistent version of Grixis, but they were missing their Fort Seizes. I don't know what was happening with that, but I feel like we had a massive edge because of that. But like I mentioned in the intro as well, Champion of Wits is so good in them late game value grind situations because Disallow doesn't see any play. And your opponent, I think there was a point where they Torrential Gearholt into a counterspell to try and counter Champion of Wits and then realised that they couldn't do that. So yeah, it got our value and our opponent just flashed in a 5/6 during our main phase 1, which felt really good. So that was the case there. So how do we do overall? I really like the list. I enjoyed it. I think this is really fun. I don't know where this fares competitively. I think this is a viable option to climb the ladder with, and I think this is a pretty competent control list, and I think this is kind of where you want to be with Grixis. I don't know. I think the Locust Guard is almost certainly out. You don't need to run that in the sideboard. That was a nice little bit of jank. But I think the Scarab God has a real place in Grixis. I feel like it had some real good inevitability, and it's good in the matchups when Nicol Bolas, the Dragon God, isn't necessarily so good. I don't know, maybe you want Ashiok instead, but I feel like the combination of Champion of Wits, because we're running so many creatures, the Scarab God can utilize them at the same time. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Like, Nicol Bolas the Ravager was good, Dragon God good, Scarab God good, just a load of good cards all running together. And I felt like running the Castle Lockthwains in the mana was not actually awful, along with the Maulings as well. I felt like we could run them pretty easily. Maybe we want to go down on like Steam Vents and up on Blood Crypts maybe, but we still do want to hit our blue quite consistently, and we're not hitting red, but we hit black enough there. We did have a few hands where we didn't hit our third land, but I mean, like, look for yourself while we're going over this. We are running 25 lands with 2 haulings as well, so 27 lands. So we should not be missing our land drops with a Champion of Wits. So even in the games you saw us get mana screwed, it happens. The magic gods don't always favor us, so that is going to happen from time to time. But that was the list. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. Did you like the list? Did you not like the list? What Grixis or what control list would you like to see upcoming? Is there any ones maybe you haven't seen at all, or one you've got in mind? If you guys have got a suggestion for like a whole list as well, like a 75 list, throw that down in the comments or let me know. I'd love to play other people's lists. It's always fun when other people get suggestions. We've had a few of them and we've played them and they've always worked out and been really fun. Also, on a side note as well, it's not something to scream and shout about, but it's a little accomplishment. Being such a new YouTube channel, I've had a lot of support recently. Over the past month we've been uploading, and we've recently just passed the 100 subscriber mark, so that's pretty fun at the same time. So we'll continue to accelerate and see how we get on. But thank you so much, you guys, for your support, and the people who keep coming back and liking and commenting and stuff like that. Really means a lot. Like I said, I'm trying to grow the channel, so thank you very much for that. But yeah, I'm just rambling. I'll try and make these exit, intro, outro things a little bit more consistent in the future so I don't waste as much of your time. But until next time, stay safe.